Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today, I will be answering a bunch of your questions that you had for me. It'll be my very first Q&A video, I believe, which is kind of shocking because I've been on YouTube, I think, for over 2 years now. But before we get into the Q&A portion of the video, I have to let you guys know that I'm having a huge shop reopening. I just added a ton of new products in my store. I have 10 new originals up for grabs. I did a series of cat portraits in watercolor, and I have a series of little clown portraits also in watercolor with gold gel pen accents. I have several new prints. I have turned my latest illustration into a print, and they are available in 2 sizes. I also turned this new piece into a print as well. And I picked my 3 favorite cat portraits and turned them into mini 5x7 prints, which turned out really nice, and I think they would make a really great gifts for a cat lover in your life. But on top of all the new products, I have a huge sale going on. Almost everything is between 20 and 30% off. So do consider checking out my online shop for all the new goodies and the sweet deals. And any purchases go towards supporting me and my channel, and so it really means a lot to me. So with all that out of the way, let's get to the questions. When did you start drawing and start taking it seriously? I definitely remember a point in time when I started to take drawing seriously. And that was when I immigrated to Canada from Korea. I was 8 years old and I came during the summer. And the way elementary school works in Canada is summer break starts at the end of June, and then it starts back up again in September. And so I had come in the beginning of July, and here I was, an 8-year-old kid. I had no friends. I didn't know anybody in a foreign land. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know what to do. So I really just clung to watching TV. And a show that I really loved was Dragon Ball Z. I had a lot of fun watching that show, and I would watch it with my mom, and she really got into it as well. But I just had the biggest crush on Gohan. I just thought he was the cutest little thing, and I just felt really compelled to draw him. And so somehow I acquired a still image of the animation, and I tried to copy the image. And I remember drawing it on the back of some cardstock paper, and it was a fairly large size that I drew it on. And when I was done with it, I remember working so hard on it too. And when I was done with it, I was so proud of myself. And I honestly feel like I could tell, even as a kid, that I had done a good job. I mean, who knows, right? Maybe it looked like shit. But at the time, I remember thinking hey, this looks really good. And, that's how I grew my confidence, and that just made me want to draw more. And so, drawing Gohan is just one of my more earlier memories that I have of actively drawing and wanting to take it seriously. How did you know you wanted to be an artist? I'm not sure if I don't know. How did I know? I just, when I started drawing and got really into it, I just kept doing it, and it just consumed my life in so many ways that I don't think I had any other thought other than to be an artist. I really just had no other career considerations. I feel like growing up I really had tunnel vision, and I just decided that drawing and painting was my thing because it was one of the earlier just things that I got validation from and praise, and I could see for myself that it was something that I was good at, and it was a source of confidence for me. And so I just couldn't see myself really dedicating that time to anything else. And so I don't know if there was like a definitive moment when I like knew I wanted to be an artist, but you know, by the time like college rolled around and you have to start thinking about like what you want to do, I was just like, well, this is what I've been doing up until this point. I really haven't thought about anything else. I seem to be good at it, and so I guess this is what I'm gonna do. I didn't have like any real grand visions other than just wanting to be a good artist, you know, draw really well and paint really well, and also just make a lot of money at it and be successful. Have you ever had an animation job? So yes, before I transitioned into becoming an independent artist, I would say I had 2 real animation jobs. So the first like real animation job I had was working on a show called The New Mr. Peabody and Sherman Show. And this is a show that did not do very well like critically, but I think it's actually a really funny and endearing show. My role on the show was I was the one of the lead key posing artists, and basically what that entailed was to draw the key frames of the animation. So I wasn't an animator myself, but I designed and drew out the key frames of the animation, and then those drawings would be sent to the animators to then be in between. And I really felt like that role really suited me very well, because I really like to pose characters and try to draw the poses and the expressions in an appealing way. And I know I'm not gonna get into my feelings on working in the animation industry in this video. I definitely have conflicted feelings about it, but when I do look back on my time on this show, I am proud of the work that I've done. What was your experience in art school? Well, that is a loaded question, and definitely another one that deserves its own video, or probably a series of videos. But I'll try to give like a very summarized kind of opinion on art school, or my experience in art school. So I went to Sheridan College, which is a school here in Canada, and I took their animation program, which is a 4-year bachelor's degree program. Overall, I would say I enjoyed art school. Overall, I think I would actually maybe even go as far as recommending it, only if you can afford it. Because I have to admit, I think I learned a lot from art school, and without the structure that school provides, I'm not sure that I would have applied myself enough, or I feel like I would have kind of second guessed myself a little too much about like what to do, and wondering if what I'm doing is the right thing. I think I definitely was the type that needed some guidance. And not only that, but having people around you that have similar goals as you, and people that you can look up to because they are better than you in their skills, that kind of environment I think is really healthy for your growth. So I could definitely go more into depth regarding my experience in art school, but I want to get to the rest of the questions in the video. So if you have any more like specific questions instead of more broad questions, then definitely feel free to ask down below, and I will maybe that will inspire me to finally start doing more videos where I talk about that stuff. If you had to start from scratch, how would you go about studying the fundamentals with what you know now? So yeah, I mean, I started drawing pretty actively since I was 8 years old. And I would say I really didn't start learning the fundamentals until I got to art school and until I started life drawing. And so if I had to start from scratch, I would definitely start life drawing much, much sooner. Learning anatomy and figure drawing as early as possible, because to me, in my eyes, that made the biggest difference in my drawing skills. But aside from life drawing, what really helped me learn how to paint, like for reals, was observational painting. So doing still life paintings, and as well as doing master copies. The biggest leaps I made in painting was when I started to do more observational painting. And I feel like the concept of lighting didn't fully click for me until I started to do a lot of still life paintings. Which art fundamental do you find to be the most difficult for you specifically? For me, I'm not even sure I know what all the art fundamentals are, but I would definitely say perspective is probably the most difficult for me. I just have a very intuitive approach when it comes to art, and so trying to figure something out like perspective properly has just never been my jam. I just find that to be the most tedious and boring thing. And it's not like I draw anything super structurally sound and elaborate in my work. It's not really a subject matter that shows up in my work, and so I feel like I've been able to get away with it. But I mean, having some sense of perspective is definitely important, otherwise your figures are always going to look wonky. It's not always just about buildings and anything architectural. I think your grasp of perspective shows through even in your figure work. I think I have a decent sense of perspective, but it's definitely something I could work on. Any advice for someone starting art school? So my biggest advice and my personal, the biggest lesson that I learned personally after having gone through art school is to keep an open mind. I was a very, very close-minded individual in art school in so many ways. I went to art school, I went to animation school, and I just thought, oh, I think I'm going to work at Disney and nowhere else. It was really I only had my sights set on working at Disney, DreamWorks, Pixar, any of those bigger animation companies, and anything else in my mind was trash. And so when that didn't happen, when I graduated and that was far from reality of happening, it really knocked me down several pegs in my confidence. Upon graduating, I had a lot of soul searching to do, and I felt like I really had to figure myself out again and realize that there are more ways than one to define success. What else? I was just so close-minded with so many things. I was such an arrogant student. There were several teachers where I felt like they didn't have anything of value to say or to teach me, and so I really just didn't give them I didn't give them a chance. I didn't pay attention. I was just checked out. I was doing my own thing. I have a lot of conflicted feelings, obviously, and I think there are definitely teachers that are not very good, but I do think I would even go as far as saying every teacher has something, some little thing they can teach you, and so I wish I could have just given them more of a chance. I mean, I'm paying for it, right? And so I was close-minded in the sense that I thought I was there to only learn how to draw and paint. Any other classes, I really tuned out, and I made the bare minimum effort to pass those classes. And looking back, I really do regret that, because there were a lot of programs that were taught in school that I did not pay attention to because I didn't think it would be relevant to me. but it turns out it actually is very relevant. For example, we were taught to use Adobe Premiere Pro and Adobe After Effects. And thankfully, I remembered a little bit from learning to use Adobe Premiere Pro, and that's why I'm able to just edit my YouTube videos very bare bones that way. But I wish I had paid more attention to After Effects because that's where you do all the cool stuff. So yeah, my biggest advice to people going to art school and people in art school is try to keep an open mind. You never really know like where you're gonna end up and how you're gonna get there, and so keep an open mind to new experiences and give people a chance, because everyone has something of value to teach you. Do you have any advice on how to properly start studying anatomy? So again, I learned how to draw anatomy by having figure drawing classes in school. How my art school was structured was, I believe we had 2 life drawing classes in a week, and the life drawing classes were 3 hours long. And in that 3-hour class, you would have a lecture portion where the teacher will teach you about like the anatomy, and then you had the drawing portion. And in that portion, the teacher would go around and, you know, critique you and show you where you could improve on your drawing, and show you ways to like see the figure better. I'm pretty sure it was 2 classes every week, so 6 hours of instructed life drawing. But on top of that, a lot of the students would attend extra life drawing. So that is after school, after like 6 p.m., we would have just uninstructed figure drawing sessions that lasted 3 hours. And a lot of us would attend those classes to, you know, just improve and solidify our understanding and our skills. And I really do think attending those extra life drawing sessions is really what helped me to improve drawing quickly. So how our like anatomy lessons were structured was, first we learned about the bones in the human body. So we had to memorize a lot of the bone names, and we had to learn how to actually draw them from memory. And that was I believe that was first year. And then second year was when we learned about the muscles. We had to also learn them by name, by memory, and be able to, I believe, draw them as well. So I know it sounds like a lot of work, and it was, but knowing the names of the bones and the names of the muscles, I would say it's absolutely crucial in order to like really understand how to draw the human figure. And I know this sounds really daunting. If you're like self-taught, then it's definitely going to be a bit harder to do that. That's why I feel like had it not been for those life drawing classes in school, I definitely would not have been proactive enough to learn those on my own. But if you are self-taught and you would like to learn how to improve on your anatomy, then I would definitely suggest first learning the names of the bones in the human body, as well as learning how to draw them, like actually draw a full skeleton from head to toe, and then move on to putting the muscles on those bones and really learn the names of the muscles. It will help you so much when you actually start to draw the figure. When I'm drawing, I'm always thinking like, oh, how does the latissimus dorsi look, and then the obliques, and the like. I actually do think of those names in my head as I'm drawing them, and it actually kind of makes drawing more fun too, and like testing your own knowledge. And so yeah, start by learning the bones, then the muscles, and if you can help it, definitely go to like in-person figure drawing. And if not, then draw from photographs. So here's a question from one of my patrons. Nee asked, if you had to restart your art journey from the beginning, what would you do different? And what would you try to learn first? So if I had to start my art journey from the beginning, I would maybe try to go to an art specific high school just so that you are exposed to more art classes and more in-depth learning. Like I know my friend Yana, aka Cosmic Spectrum, she went to an art high school and I believe she had figure drawing there and all kinds of like art classes that I never had exposure to. So I feel like it probably would have pushed me maybe to not even pursue animation. And yeah, that's kind of a loaded topic and definitely something I want to talk about in a future video. But yeah, I feel like if I had to start over, I probably wouldn't go to an animation school like I did. I don't know if I would go to like a fine art school, but I think I would definitely try to go to an atelier where, you know, you don't have to take any like bullshit college classes just to like get a degree, but you focus just on like drawing and painting. Even now, I really wish I had the time and the resources to go to an atelier for like a year or something, take a year off and I don't know, go like just really immerse myself in learning and not feel the pressure to create. So I keep fantasizing about it. So if I had to start over, maybe I would go to an art high school and then instead of going straight to college, maybe I would try an atelier and just like really level up quickly by doing really focused drawing and painting sessions. And here's another question by one of my patrons. Pedro Toledo asks, have you ever thought of being a gallery artist? And would you eventually do workshops after the pandemic ends? Have I ever thought of being a gallery artist? I definitely have thought of that and definitely would like to in the future. I just don't know if I'm cut out to be one of those kinds of artists. Like I have this idea of gallery artists in my head and I don't know if I'm like cool enough to be a gallery artist. I remember when I was at the illustration masterclass, two of the guest lecturers were Tara, oh my gosh, I don't remember her last name, Tara McPhereson and Kent Williams, who are both gallery artists. And I just remember like they just had such a strong sense of their own identity and I don't know, they were just so confident in talking about their vision and everything. And I don't know if I could be like that. I don't know if I could have that level of confidence in speaking about my work. And so I don't know if I would actually be cut out to be a good gallery artist, because if the moment I open my mouth, like I don't know if anyone would have the confidence in me in order to see the value in my work that is like necessary to be a gallery artist. But I do fantasize about doing these like big paintings and having a little show one day. And to answer the second portion of your question, I definitely have fantasized about doing workshops. I don't know, whenever I fantasize about traveling and going to a new country, I will think like, oh, wouldn't it be really cool to like gather some local artists and just like get together and have like a little workshop or something. But those are just like my fantasies, and I know realistically I have like a huge fear of public speaking, and so I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that as well. Just the logistics of organizing something like that is really daunting to me. And so if I were to do some kind of workshop in the future, it would have to be organized by someone else, and you know, all the logistics figured out by that person, and it would just have to be made extremely easy for me. Like, you know, no reason for me to not do it. Also, I feel like I need some kind of like partner in crime where they kind of like lead the show and lead the questions for the people that are there for the workshop. Otherwise, I just really feel like I wouldn't know what to say. It would just be a lot of dead silence and like awkwardly smiling at the people, and like someone would really have to take the reins and like organize the like curriculum or whatever. Otherwise, I don't really see it in the cards for me unless all those boxes are checked. Who are your favorite artists and who have inspired your work? I always have a hard time answering these questions when I have to like remember people's names and like pick a favorite out of like all the possibilities. But some of the artists that I know for sure have inspired my work are J.C. Leyendecker and Benjamin Björklund, who is he's a contemporary artist. I have mentioned him like probably a number of times on my YouTube videos. There's just something about his work that I'm really, really drawn to. The way, first of all, his subject matter is usually very simple, which is something that I really like. But even though they're simple, he makes it look very interesting with his use of lighting, composition, his sense of colors, the way he renders it. There's always this mysterious kind of feeling in his work, and there's a quality to it that I really like. And even though when you look at his work, you might not really see the connection, but I do try to emulate that kind of quality in my work sometimes. And another artist that I would say is an inspiration / influence on me is Bao Pham. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with his work. Not only his work, but his work ethic and how he's able to stay true to his vision, I find really inspiring. I think he has a lot of qualities that are very admirable. I discovered an artist recently that I really, really like. Like when I look at her work, I feel like I'm questioning everything I'm doing, and I just want to drop everything and like make the kind of work that brings out that feeling in me. Her name is Colleen Barry. I would say she is a fine artist. I don't really know how to describe art, but yeah, when I saw her paintings, just her sense of colors and that same like moody quality that I find in Benjamin Björklund's work. There's something about that really resonates with me, and it does make me feel like dropping everything and picking up oil painting again. And yeah, I don't know, they just, there's something about their work. For me, there's this like haunting quality to it, and that's what I love so much. I don't know, what do you guys think? I would love to know if you guys kind of get the same feeling from their work. Who are some smaller Insta artists you look up to? Some artists that popped in mind are Amie Farrell or Amie Farrell. I'm actually not sure how to say her name. Definitely go check her out. I'll list all the names of people I mentioned. I will definitely list down below, so just in case I don't say it properly and go through it too quickly or whatnot. But she is, I believe, also Canadian, and she just does these most amazingly like whimsical and delicate little drawings of animals and characters, and I find them very touching. Just her drawings, I can tell that there's this like quality of tenderness to her drawings that I think is really special. Her work just feels very precious to me. Like that's how I would describe it. It feels precious. Another artist that comes to mind, who is, I believe, also Canadian, or at least lives in Canada or is based in Canada, is Artofedge. And her work is just so just visually impactful, and stimulating is how I would describe it. Like her use of colors and shapes. I just find it really interesting to look at visually, and she likes to work in a variety of mediums as well, which I find really interesting when an artist does that. She primarily does portraits like I do, but she's able to incorporate really interesting like design motif and shapes and colors, and so I find I'm really drawn to whatever she does, and I find it really inspiring, and it at least shows me what is possible. And another artist that I really admire on Instagram, her handle is _Bluebirdy_, basically just Bluebirdy on Instagram. Her, again, like Amie Farrell, she's got this just tender touch to her drawings and paintings. I can tell that she is very observant of her surroundings and of the people around her in order to inject that kind of like tenderness in her work. She draws like beautiful gestures and expressions. Nothing is super exaggerated. It's all very subtle, and it's just beautiful. She's definitely someone that I wish would come out with an art book so that I could have a collection of their like drawings and paintings to refer to instead of just checking Instagram. So yeah, definitely give her a follow and encourage her to make an art book. How much time do you try to commit to creating art in a week? So being an independent artist, I would say my schedule is really all over the place. Like I'll have a week or more even when I don't even like pick up the pencil. I don't draw anything, I don't paint anything, I don't do any art related tasks, because there are parts of my business, for example, like making YouTube videos or working on my online shop or making a Skillshare class. Those all take a lot of time from me drawing, and so I would say I'm not even drawing and painting like half of the time, which is kind of sad. But when I actually do sit down to make art, I will probably work on it like at least 10 hours a day until it's done. Like I really don't like to bounce around tasks, and so when I do start on a new piece, I really can't do anything else until I finish that piece. And then when that's done, I have to scan. If I'm going to turn it into a print, I have to scan it, I have to edit it, I have to test print it, I have to put it up on the shop, I have to promote it on Instagram, YouTube, make the YouTube video. Like all that is another week of work. And then, trying to research new products for the store and trying to come up with a new project idea, all that is also time away from drawing and painting. And so it's hard to put a number on it, but even as much as 50-50 is how it usually tends to go. How did you develop your sense of colors? Did it come with experimentation, or did you follow a specific technique? I had a lot of questions asking me about my color sensibilities, and it's very flattering to hear that, because I do feel like if all else fails, at least I've got my colors, because it's something that I do feel quite confident in, the ability to pick colors that work well together. But how did I develop my color sense? I really do not know how to answer this question. I really tried to think about it, but I really just couldn't come up with an answer other than that I just really like colors. I always have liked colors. It was always kind of one of the top priorities for me when it came to drawing and painting. But if I will say anything that might actually help, I think if you wanted to learn how to use colors, I definitely recommend using traditional media over digital, because just the act of mixing real pigments together, I think you will end up, first of all, learning about how color mixes together, and mixing colors together, actually, like physically, I think it makes it easier to have colors that end up working together in your picture, rather than digitally or arbitrarily being able to pick whatever color you want. The colors end up being less related to one another, whereas if you use like a palette of set colors, the paints you use inevitably, no matter how clean you keep your palette, will end up kind of mixing together. And I know some people, like when I observe some traditional artists, sometimes they keep the colors like really, really separate. And I'm sure that works for them, but for me, I actively try to mix the colors that I'm using together, because I found that to be a really easy way to make sure that all the colors feel connected to one another and not one color looks out of place. What is your favorite part of your process? So in the drawing stage, I really love to just figure out the character's pose and their expressions. It's part like stressful and frustrating trying to figure out like the right pose and stuff and the right composition, but I really like trying to figure out how to maximize the appeal and the emotion that I want to portray and design it in a way that reads well to the audience. I find it to be a really interesting challenge, and I really just love drawing the figure and the face in all kinds of different angles. And in painting, my favorite part of the process is rendering the face, for sure. Whenever that face starts to come to life is when I feel like, life is breathed into the painting. There comes a point in painting where everything is figured out. I don't have to figure out how the lighting works. I don't have to figure out, anything major. Everything is in place. Now all I really have to do is just make sure the colors are appealing and make sure the edges are appealing. That's also my favorite part, and that is usually towards the end. And I feel like I can do a lot of work at the very end of the painting stage to like punch up the painting and make it like a lot better. But it takes so much work to get it even to that point. And maybe that's all the more reason why that part of the painting process is so satisfying to me. If you could try a completely new art medium and be immediately good at it, what would it be? If I could try a new art medium, I've tried many art mediums or art media, but I haven't tried markers, and I've always wanted to try markers. And so that is something I guess I would like to try one of these days. But I've always had in mind that I need to use Copic markers and nothing else. And so unless I can afford like hundreds of Copic markers, I probably won't venture out into using markers. How do you stay positive and keep pushing through without seeing immediate results or the results you hope for? How do you stay positive? I don't know. I don't think I stay very positive, actually. If you've seen my videos, there's always a point in painting for me where I hit a roadblock and I feel like giving up or whatever. How do I keep myself, and how do I push myself through that? I feel like I have to push myself because I have no option. Like, I just feel like, oh man, I've invested so much time into this. I can't quit now. I gotta keep going. Like, there's gotta be a way around it. So yeah, just believing in your ability to pull something together and allowing yourself to improvise. I think that's something that I'm really starting to learn, is to allow myself to forget the vision that I had going into it, and just improvise, just make something else up on the spot, and don't feel bad about it. Like, accept what is going on now, and no one else really cares. Like, people just want to see good work. People don't care whether or not, like, people don't care about the intentions you had going into the piece and then that not aligning with whatever you ended up with. Like, they just want to see something cool at the end, right? For me, like, the disappointment of a piece not going well is so great that it's hard to think about it that way. But I also am just in the position where I have to, and I can't just spend like months not finishing a piece. Like, I have to have something to show at the end of the day. So yeah, it's part just like really just forcing myself, and part believing in myself, in my ability to pull something together, and allowing myself the freedom to stray from the original intentions. There's also nothing wrong with starting over completely. I just personally hate doing that because I don't like the idea of wasting my time. But a lot of people would say that actually starting over is probably the better way to go. I'm just personally really stubborn that way. What's something you know you should work on but keep pushing aside? Something that I know that I should work on and keep pushing aside is drawing things other than just like the figure and the face. Like, I'm fairly confident in being able to draw, you know, a human's face and body, but I don't really know how to draw anything else. Like, I really have not dedicated that much time into building my visual library. So I don't have a ton of confidence when it comes to drawing anything else other than the face and the human body. So that's kind of what got me down the path of like studying how to draw cats, because I really like cats and I really wanted to incorporate them into my illustrations, but I really could not draw them very well at all. Like, they looked so wrong when I tried to draw them out of my head. And so that's why I put together some Pinterest boards, and I started to just actively try to learn how to draw them, and it's helped a lot. Like, it really doesn't take much when you want to draw something, when you want to learn to draw something new. Like, just gather some reference images and just draw them, copy them for a day or two, and I guarantee you that you're going to be able to draw them much more easily, and it'll be just one added little asset in your toolkit. So yeah, that's something that I'm going to try to actively work on, is just like tackle one little subject at a time. I really want to learn how to draw flowers properly so I can incorporate them like some people do very effortlessly. There are so many things that I don't know how to draw, and I feel like it does really limit me in my subject matter when it comes to my paintings. So I'm trying to think, like, what kind of things do I want to paint? What kind of things do I want in my illustrations? And then just try to cross them off one by one. What's your ratio of practice and studying to creating artwork? And what about 6 years ago? So this is an interesting question. I think I have a lot to say about it, but I'll try to be concise. These days, I would say I definitely create more than I practice and study, but in the past, I would definitely put the emphasis on studying more than creating. And some of you might think that that is the way it should be, and I agree, but I also feel like I used studying and practicing as a crutch because I was scared of creating and failing, because to me there was more of a risk to creating, because, you know, like, I might not like what I end up with and other people might not like what I come up with. Like, I feel like there's definitely more risk associated with creating artwork than just studying and practicing. So I definitely used studying as a procrastination tool, I would say, to put off creating my own work. And what that resulted in is me being really scared to create my personal works. Like, even to this day, whenever I feel stuck creatively, I will turn to doing studies. And that does help, but I also do feel like I use it as a crutch. I mean, I could definitely be doing worse things with my time, but I think there's more value in creating than I gave it back in the day. Like back in the day, I used to think, oh, constantly putting out artwork and not actively studying and practicing is just, you're going to be complacent, you're not going to actually learn. But I do realize now that there is more value in creating. I think you actually do learn a lot from creating. Things like learning about your process and learning how to finish something, I think are both very valuable lessons. And that's not really going to happen if all you're doing are studies. You're not actually really like following through on something as you would a fully finished like personal piece. And so yeah, I thought that was an interesting question and something that I have thought about for a long time. What's your favorite movie? I don't really have like one favorite movie, but one movie that comes to mind and one movie that I've enjoyed very much is Catch Me If You Can with Tom Hanks and Leonardo DiCaprio. Leonardo DiCaprio is definitely, I would say, one of my absolute favorite actors. I've always been drawn to the characters that he ends up playing. I don't know what it is. I just find them very endearing and very flawed. And so yeah, I really like the storyline. I like that it's based off a true story. I like the 60s, 70s setting of it. I really like Amy Adams as well. I love Amy Adams. So yeah, just all around, good cast, interesting story, and endearing characters. Have you ever considered releasing a book of your drawings? Yes. Actually, probably my one project that I really want to accomplish this year is to finally put out my very first art book. I have gone through and scanned all of my images and edited most of them. So the images are pretty much all ready to go. I just have to figure out how I'm going to lay out the book and figure out how I'm going to divide the chapters, what I'm going to write about each section. And yeah, I did get in touch with a manufacturer and got a quote. So the ball is definitely moving. I just have been struggling to work on it like consistently. I feel like if I did work on it consistently and solely on the art book, I could probably get it like sent into the manufacturer in like a few weeks. I just have been busy with everything else, so I haven't been able to dedicate that time. But it is definitely something that I want to accomplish by the end of the year. I will make it my mission to get it done. I feel like it's definitely time for me to put out a collection of paintings and drawings. I've always felt like why bother, because I put everything out there and everyone has access to everything pretty much. But I've definitely come around to the idea of making art books and making them fairly regularly. Like I said earlier, like I wish Bluebirdy had an art book, and who is to say that someone's not saying that about me, right? Like I need to put myself in the shoes of my audience more and recognize that just because I have access to all my work doesn't mean like everyone does. And putting everything together in a nice little package, like there's value in that. It presents it in a more contextual way. So yeah, I've definitely come around to the idea of making an art book. I am planning on making it this year. And so yeah, it'll be a big project for me, a big undertaking, but I'm excited for it. And so I hope you guys are as well. Keep me accountable, keep reminding me about it so that I don't, let another year go by without doing it. So that is it for today's video. I really hope you found this insightful. I hope it was just like a nice little glimpse into some of these topics that have been asked so many times by so many of you guys that I haven't been really able to address. So I really felt like this was a good kind of starting point for opening those kinds of conversations up. I hope you enjoyed how this little painting turned out. Again, it is available on my online shop as an original as well as a mini print. So definitely make sure to check out my shop for all those new products and the sales. So with that, thank you all so much for watching and listening, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!